There is a good amount to talk about here locally because Billy Gill does not have the stamina. He does not have the strength for a Marlins playoff run, but you've got
big win, man.
The highest praise that I could give the Marlins in terms of electrifying this local audience is that Stugotz, fake Mets fan at this point in his life, doesn't recognize his shortstop.
Right.
Pretended to get excited, pretended about Steve Cohen spending a whole bunch of money.
I was excited at the time.
Okay, but I'm not really. You're just you've been going through the motions on your Mets fandom. Even when they were winning 100 games, you were like, you weren't that into it.
It's fair.
But last night, Stugotz made a bet on Mets Marlins. And the Marlins played a meaningful game, Billy Gill, and a fun game and a dramatic game and a scary game just like the one before it in September. That's crazy, Billy.
I don't have the stamina, as you mentioned before, but this is what I do have, a bone to pick with
Wow.
Bally Sports.
You're picking a bone?
Yeah, I have a bone to pick with them.
Nice.
Because here's the thing, Dan. I, as a Gen Zer, is that right? Am I a Gen Zer? Well, I, as a Gen Zer, as I'm going to describe myself, am also a cord cutter now, and I canceled my cable. Yeah, I canceled my cable, and I registered for Hulu Plus Live TV.
Wow.
And
how does it feel?
It's been great, honestly. So I've been doing that to save some money. I also am getting my internet through another provider. Wow. So I cut the cord with Comcast, which is tricky because there's still many cords involved with cord cutting. I have just as many cords and cables as I did before, so I don't entirely understand the name cord cutter, but I cut the cord. Now, Hulu Plus Live Sports has live sports, just not my hometown team. So then I need to go and I need to subscribe to the Bally Sports app, which is quite pricey, might I add. Mm-hmm. So I was doing that. And that's how I have to watch my Marlins. Now, there's Bally Sports Sun and there's Bally Sports Florida.
Welcome to the future, by the way.
I hate it.
You're spending more. I mean,
I have my ways about getting around and getting certain discounts. And let me just tell you the secret. There's always a new email you can set up to take advantage of codes.
Wait a minute. This needs imaging because this is a lane for you. Whispered discounts.
Well, I don't want to say it too loud because then people are going to find out my tricks and then I'm going to cost myself.
I know, but whispered discounts is something that nobody else on this show is doing.
Yeah.
And you're good at it.
Yeah.
You're better at it than most.
But, Dan, when you're aware of a discount, you don't share the discount.
I know,
with others,
but saying it out of the side of your mouth on a podcast that gets millions of downloads a week, also not private.
Well, I know, but that's why I don't draw attention to it. Just keep it moving. And if you hear it, you hear it. And if you don't, you don't. So, anyways, this is what the thing is. It's quite pricey, Dan. And if I want Bally Sports Florida and Bally Sports Sun, it would cost me $30 a month for those two channels, which is, like, by the way, insane. Like, insane to pay that $30 a month for two channels. So I'm like, I'm just going to pay for the one that has the Marlins on.
Billy,
and even that $20 a month. Billy, and I was like, you know what? I found it for $14.99.
You are at the intersection because of your age, adulthood, because of family, because you want to save money. You don't want to spend like a crazy person. You are at a crossroads technologically. David Sampson is uniquely qualified to discuss the intersection of business and how all this stuff is going to change because it's about to get really expensive to be a diehard sports fan.
About to? It is.
No, but it's about.
I just keep adding stuff on.
Okay, but it's about to. If you're willing, you have money. You're not careful with your money.
Yeah.
You bet on a Mets Marlins game.
I did. I won.
Well, do you want to know the
You
bonus?
bet against your team?
Of course I did. Yeah.
You said you never did that to the Jets.
Well, I do it to the Mets.
You don't care about the Mets. That's why. Sampson, you make what of what Billy is saying. How bad is this about to get for sports fans? Incidentally, I should tell the audience, Nothing Personal is the name of his podcast, and even though he is envious of all the attention Pablo Torre finds out is getting.
Billy never got to his bone.
Yeah, we'll get to it.
All right.
Sampson, we weren't going to get to Sampson. Hold on to the bone. I want to hear the bone you have to pick. Sampson does too. How much is this about to change for sports fans? Or is it already changing so fast that you better be careful or you're going to be spending hundreds and hundreds of dollars a month just to keep up with the basics?
You just have to have a spreadsheet. So this is the time to be like me, be a little OCD, have a list, keep track of what you're spending. And the purpose here is that, Billy, you should only spend on what you want. and you should spend on how you spend your time. So if you're not watching a streaming network, get rid of it. If you are a Marlins fan, you're going to have to get the Bally's app, much like if you're a Yankees fan, it's the Yes app, or Nessun if you're a Red Sox fan. So we really are giving the people what they want, and you should be willing to pay for what you want. People just aren't willing to pay anymore for what they don't want. So when you cut the cord, what it really means is you're only paying for that content that you personally are going to ingest. Now you just have to make budget decisions like the rest of the people.
Not necessarily. I got a site that you can watch every sport, every game for free, no questions asked. We make it happen.
Mándamelo.
What site is that?
Oh, I can't say that over the airwaves, guys.
Don't
That's
you
crazy.
dare.
Are you doing that illegal thing that
It's not illegal,
that
Dan.
Silver and Dana White are trying to stop people from bootlegging sports for free? Like, what are you doing?
Maybe what they're trying to stop is illegal.
Wait.
What I have is not illegal for
Okay,
sure.
this is the
Tell
best.
me off
though.
air, Tom.
Samson, please.
You
though.
can't have Tony, you cannot have everything available to you
Samson, he
like
can.
a de-scrambler.
Samson, you
Can have
don't.
whatever he
Samson,
wants.
you
I mean,
do not understand.
It's up to him.
How inventive and innovative Cuban people can be with this stuff. You have to understand that Tony's grandparents came over with educations and were able to make like cars out of plumbing supplies.
That's right.
So he will get everything for free because he's from a certain part
Multiple educations
of Miami.
Well, now he has to buy a new computer every couple months as a result.
That's a
but he
different
doesn't
story,
pay
though,
for the
yeah.
cable.
Okay, but it's all allegedly legal.
Yes, 100%
You have
above
to
board.
sleep with
no
one
questions
eye
asked.
open, Tony.
Oh, I sleep great, Samson.
Billy, can you because you are not supportive of Tony very much
Falsehoods.
in ways that I see. Is he now angling for a lane that has been previously the undisputed domain of Stugotz? Is Tony into more scams because of where he comes from in Miami than Stugotz? No one's ever come from, I'm more of a scammer than Stugotz. But even Stugotz knows better than to start jerry-rigging his wiring so he gets all the sports events for free.
I just don't know how.
You can't jerry-rigger wiring to get free. You have to have
I don't know about
some
that.
Yeah, the alarm bells started going off for me and Tony falling for these fraud schemes once he started talking about parcels of land in La Montaña.
No, it's not just that, no.
That's still for sale, by the way.
There's dock access.
Of
Mike.
course it is. It will
guys-
be for sale in 10 years.
Wait, Samson, we'll get to you in a second. But my father knew so many of these guys. He knew so many Caladios. And we'd watch. I didn't pay for anything in childhood. All the fights, everything, we stole them all as a Cuban family. It was a
Wow.
tradition. And Tony comes from the same stuff.
Tradition.
One word, Dan.
What tradition is that?
A tradition of
Unlike
Hispanic
any other.
innovation.
Thank you for saying the right word. Innovation is right. The man tries to hold us down. We get to this country. We're here to work. The man tries to hold us down. You know what we do? We kind of sneak around it. The HBO box,
We're
we got a
against
different cable.
Philosophically, our grandparents are against government regulation of
Attaboy.
things that takes our money. Less power to the government. Steal.
Power to the people.
It was one day that he was rifling through an IG wallet, and I saw an all-access DirecTV card fall out of his wallet.
That a boy.
We will get to the bone that Billy has to pick in a second, but something that I wanted to take up with you, Samson.
So all this time, you've been the scammer.
Not like you, though. Tony's coming for the big lane, and it was my dad. It wasn't me. I was a child.
Okay.
I wasn't the one stealing it. My father was stealing it.
Right.
My father would also go to the grocery store, still does this, and just reach into the candy bin that's out
there for the taking, though.
and wander
Don't
around.
say that.
Nothing wrong with that.
Eating
Don't
them
say
in the
that.
aisles.
Cares? Yeah.
Yes, eating them in the aisles, just stealing them.
It's a taste test, Dan. Not a steal. It's a taste test.
These guys
Samples.
got mad, Samson, the other day because Scott Van Pelt, proud Baltimore guy, started SportsCenter on a football Monday with the Orioles. But to me, the Orioles are amazing as a story for a couple of reasons. We've been making fun of them for 20 years, a once proud franchise. So much so, Stugotz, that the only play I remember from the last 10 years of Orioles baseball before this team was Buck Showalter as the manager coming out and pulling his pitcher before the guy who had hit a home run arrived at third base. Buck was already on the mound before the trotter got home. Baltimore's been terrible. And now, David, they're going to be better than the Yankees and the Red Sox for the next 10 years because all of their players are young and 20, and their farm system is loaded.
I think David disagrees.
I mean, come on. The
10 years?
The Yankees and Red Sox
Yankees.
have proven that they'll spend whatever it takes to come at some of those
Samson,
teams.
they've got the advantage
So the
of
Mets.
all of their young players. Just explain to us how loaded this team is and is about to be.
They are absolutely loaded, but 10 years from now, they'll all be 4 years into free agency.
They'll
So
all
you-
be Yankees.
You were doing great until you said 10 years.
David, they're bringing up guys now that are better than the guys they have. Like that, this team is overwhelming. The Orioles are that strong. It might take them a couple of years to learn it, but this team is going to be good for the next 5 years.
Oh, okay. Now we're down to 5.
Okay, whatever.
It never works out that way, though. Like, everybody
No, it
always
doesn't.
thinks that this team is going to, like, you win one championship or you go on a run, and it's like, oh, they're going to dominate forever. And just, they rarely do.
The Dodgers.
They can all get hurt.
Braves.
My point is, if you've got young, cheap guys, you can compete in that sport, even if you don't have money, is my point.
But eventually they get expensive. So we had a bunch of young, cheap guys, and we were able to compete, win, got a World Series, but then they get more expensive, and you let them go because you have no choice. The Orioles are in a position where they don't have the revenue that the Red Sox and Yankees have and never will, by definition. So over the long run, being a Yankee fan or Red Sox fan is going to be better. Not this year, but over the long run, it will always be better. What I love is that people aren't paying attention to Baltimore. They may end up with the best record in all of baseball. They're that close to Atlanta right now, which is unbelievable. And they're being managed by someone who I hope friends of the show know. Have you ever had Brandon Hyde on your show?
No.
He was a Marlins coach for many, many years. We had him forever. And he became the manager of the Orioles, and he has stuck there. He has not been fired through the rebuild. They took a step forward last year, won 83 games maybe, and now this year they are likely going to win 100 games. And what's impressive is the fact that they had discipline that they were never able to have when Peter Angelos was not – he's not dead, but he's not alive. He's not really operating
Makes
the team.
sense. Yeah.
It's his sons operating
Wait
the
a
team.
minute. What is that? What? He's in purgatory?
He's a zombie.
Right.
He's sort of one step ahead of Bernie, and that's it. So he's not even the control person of that team anymore. It's his sons. This is the team that had all those issues this season when the sons were suing each other. And then John Angelos, who's the control person, came out and said, I'm going to open our financials and show you that we're losing money, so we can't keep this team together. He pulled in Huizinga only a few months ago saying this team won't stay together. And you remember people from Florida in 97 when Huizinga said we're going to trade everyone, even if we win the World Series, which they did and then did. But the exciting thing is that baseball can't market the Orioles, and baseball is despondent over that fact. They're excited that a low payroll team is winning. They're upset that no one cares.
Mike, why are you making faces at that?
Well, why can't they market the Orioles? The Orioles used to be a big in the 90s. They used to be a big time rating.
In
I know
the
Cal.
80s, Mike. In the
I know
80s.
Cal used to be a part of that, but that's a big media market down there. They can't market the Orioles. Someone new, someone exciting.
Can you name 5 players?
They're all Austin Hayes. They all look like Austin Hayes. And if you ask me to name 5, I'll say Rauschman.
I'll give you so much information
Hayes.
on the Rays if you want it, because the Rays are also great.
And I think
Name 5.
I think
Oh,
Chris
I
Sabo.
could do their whole lineup.
Really?
I can't watch them.
Look at you flexing.
I could bore you to tears
really?
with so talk about Siri, their center fielder.
They still have Markakis,
Do it.
No, I don't think
Chris
anybody
Davis?
wants that.
BJ Surhoff.
I think the Orioles are like the Stepford Wives of baseball. But it seems to work, and it is working, and it is exciting. And if you are the owner of the Yankees or the Red Sox, you are truly despondent beyond repair watching the Orioles and Rays be the dominant players in that division. And that's what leads to firing, like Chaim Bloom gets fired. That's what's going to lead to changes with the Yankees, because it is so bad to go to an owners meeting and look at Angelos or look at Stu Sternberg and realize that they're taking revenue-sharing money from you and then kicking your ass.
But, yeah, you mentioned, you gave us a revelation that Peter Angelos is not dead but also not alive, somewhere in the in-between. And Dan mentioned that they're going to be good for 10 years. So if they have young players, when I was growing up, and even throughout the 20-teens, the Orioles would still spend dumb money. They usually had the financial means to at least be accused of being able to keep the guys that'll come up for free agency.
Forgive me on his history. An asbestos king was very rich at one time. The Orioles mattered. They were spenders. They built the most modern of parks a million years ago. And since then, they have lost and lost money. And Angelos, what's happened to his money? Because he's not a big player in this division, or hasn't been financially, David. And this division is turned upside down. To me, the most fascinating thing about the AL East is that the Yankees and Red Sox aren't actually that bad. They have all the money advantages. They're not that bad this year. What it is, though, is that Toronto, Baltimore, and the Rays are a good deal better and cheaper and getting paid for it. That is a market shift, Dave. What's happened there in the business of the AFC?
And if he's,
I'm sorry, of the AL East.
And if he's not dead and not alive, has he considered running for Congress?
Yeah. I believe that he is not able to know that the Orioles are having a good year.
Damn, that makes me sad. Well, someone should let him
what
know.
Are you laughing
He has no
at?
idea.
Wait a minute. That's not
It's just
funny.
funny.
What's funny about that? I think what he's saying is that, that Angelos is in the sad state of such age decline that his mental facilities are not there. I have not seen that reported. That's so?
It's he has not appeared at an owners meeting, and then the team was taken away because he was not able to be a control person. It's sad. He got old. He got sick. It's not. I'm not saying anything against him. He was one of the toughest SOBs when he was in his prime of being an asbestos attorney, and that's how he made his fortune in the beginning. And he would come into owners meetings. He's a pretty small guy, but pretty not like me, this so small. But he had a presence when he walked in a room. People were scared of him. He was grumpy all the time. He was fighting with the Nationals.
Forgive my ignorance here. Just can you explain this to me? Because I legitimately do not know the history of the business. Can you explain to me what it takes to make your riches as an asbestos lawyer?
Oh, it's outstanding. You get class action lawsuits against companies where they know they have asbestos and they sort of ignore it. And then people get sick, and then you have to do a settlement, and you keep 33 cents of every dollar, but you don't charge people up front. It's like what personal injury lawyers do, and they're a part of our society. They're needed. But the way it works is sometimes they're called ambulance chasers, not very nice. But what you do is you get huge multi-billion-dollar settlements, and then you get court-awarded attorney's fees in many cases, where your law firm becomes the go-to place when there is anybody who's sick. It's called a plaintiff's firm, where you represent people who want money because they can't breathe anymore.
It's kind of like when Better Call Saul, when Saul Goodman goes out to the old folks' home and he's like, hey, guys, this is messed up. Why don't you trust me? I'll go out there, fight for you, and then make all your money.
Tony, I got to stop you. Can you guys please find the old video for me and put it in the corner of the most disgusted I have been with David Sampson, where he showed radiant delight when we told him the story of Bob Ross's family ripping him off. David Sampson.
He knew way too much about that.
No,
it wasn't his family.
Well, whatever.
Again with this, Dan?
Bob Ross's loved ones. No, the idea that greed would bring you radiant delight, and that awful people doing law in an awful way, that you would call it outstanding that he had made his money.
Well,
because
hold on.
It's legal, though. Hold on. It's legal.
Awful in what sense? These people are poisoned by asbestos.
Well, no, Dan asked the question. David just knew way too much about what it is that Dan asked.
I sense a potential new bit where we play a clip of David's reaction and people have to guess what he's talking about. Because I'm betting if you just play him saying, oh, it's outstanding, no one will ever guess what he's about to describe.
What do you view, David, as someone, I don't know how unscrupulous you are in these places where you are really bold-faced about money wins and money can be had grossly. It's nothing personal. It's just business. What did you regard as the dirtiest money that had ownership of a major league team in baseball?
There are so many owners who made money in ways that most people would consider to be, in their mind, not scrupulous, but in fact, they're just taking advantage of inconsistencies in a market or taking advantage of people who don't have the ability to monetize. The expression's much more, your dad knows the expression, rich get richer. And the reason rich people get richer is they're able to do things that people who don't have the capital to start can't do. I don't think that plaintiffs' attorneys, they're not the scum of the earth. They're representing people who are trying to get paid, sometimes who deserve to and sometimes who don't deserve to. and no one else is doing it, so they do it. There are people in the meat industry, the way they treat animals.
Answer my question. Who's the dirtiest? Answer my question. The dirtiest money that you regarded when you were at the center of the business.
Everybody was tied for last. I mean, what dirty money? Dirty money is when you steal or when you rob or when you commit crimes or violent crimes or when you shake people down. That's dirty money. When you're just better at business than someone, I don't consider that to be dirty money at all.
That's capitalism.
But definitionally, that is capitalism.
David, what happens here with Shohei Otani? The fact that he is not going to pitch and just be a hitter next year, how does that impact his free agency?
What a brilliant job. And I'm nothing personal. I like criticizing PR because people are just bad at it. It is funny. If you read the reports yesterday, the agents who came out to talk about Shohei's surgery, the Angels who talked about Shohei's surgery, they called it a procedure. I had such fun with nothing personal with this. It was Tommy John, but they don't want to say it because when you have two Tommy Johns, you may not be able to ever come back and pitch. But no, he had a procedure, much like the Aaron Rodgers Achilles, never been done. He's going to come back in 12 weeks. It's brilliant, Stu. No worries. He'll be there for week 15 or 16. It's total horse hockey. His Achilles ripped off and rolled up like a carpet. Shohei Ohtani's ligament was torn. When you fix that, it's called Tommy John. You don't miss a year with a procedure. You miss a year with Tommy John.
You are indignant. You are furious. You have caught these people in a lie.
Who are they fooling? Are they fooling teams who are in the market to sign Otani? Do you think that there's a GM of the Dodgers, Andrew Friedman? Do you think he reads that report and says, oh, it wasn't Tommy John. No problem. Now we'll sign him to $60 million a year.
Samson, listen to me when I tell you I've not seen Billy Gill more passionate about anything than a couple of weeks ago when he thundered in here screaming about how stupid the Angels are. Billy, for the 8th consecutive season, the Angels will finish with Trout and Otani, but not some of them with Trout and Otani, some of them without. But 8 consecutive seasons under 500 for the Angels, longest streak in baseball. Nobody's worse than that with the two best players in the sport.
It's unreal.
That's almost mathematically impossible to do.
And it hasn't been the same group of people running it. Like, it's been the same owner, but it hasn't been the same GM. So it's been multiple people that just can't figure it out, which is the strangest part.
But to me, it's fascinating, David. You must marvel at this part, right? When Moneyball came to the sport and the Dodgers had also Moneyball inefficiencies, the idea that in the AL East, the Orioles and Rays have figured out a way to do business so smartly, Stugotz, and you'd love this, so smartly that they lost long enough to get all the young players cheap, and so they could beat those teams in that division and take their revenue-sharing money. They are being paid to kick Yankee and Red Sox ass because they've gotten so much better at the efficiencies of how to manage a team, and in that, the Angels have the two best players and can't win for 8 years. It's nuts how the sport is turned upside down that way, David, that money matters less than it ever has.
My favorite stat there would be at the owners' meeting after the season, once you give the perfunctory applause to the owner who won the World Series and everybody's really flipping him the bird because you're so pissed off. There's a stat that they give about dollars per win. And that's the one I always like to win. Because what it shows is that you are spending the least amount of money to get every win, and that is the game that everybody's playing, is how much money do we actually have to spend? And there's rumors it's $8 million per win, and it's all about wins above replacement and all of these stats. But at the end of the day, how do you win the most games and pay the players the least amount of money? What the Angels have done is they have led the league in number of dollars per loss, which is the worst way to do it. When you've got the highest payroll. This year, the San Diego Padres are up there along with the Mets, who are going to absolutely win the award for the most dollars paid per loss. And so the difference is when you have a low payroll, you can't make mistakes. So Billy, the Angels, when they signed Rendon or Pujols or C.J. Wilson, people were excited at these signings. Or Upton, remember that huge Upton signing? When they gave him all that money, none of it has worked. Trout, they gave all the money to. but it's not like they don't spend money. When you run a small market team, a small payroll team, Tampa, Baltimore, you don't have the chance to make a mistake, so you make fewer of them.
We're going to get to your movie review in just a second, but can you please tell me of the scams going on right now with stadium deals around the country, whether it's Tampa, OKC? God, what a great scam they've got, Stugotz.
It's so good.
They want a $900 million downtown arena, and their model of business is to basically just get young players that you can lock up for 7 years, all draft picks, all value, all efficiency, and then you're going to lose Durant and Westbrook and anybody else after 7 years, but you're going to run your business. You're going to do what Dave is just talking about. They've got one of the great scams. Send a star basketball player to a nowhere city, force him to live there, and keep him there for 7 years under contract, and then build a stadium under it. Which is the biggest scam? One of those two or a different one, or the Vegas situation?
Well, the Vegas situation, I can't even call a scam because I don't know what it is. And the Tampa Bay just announced their stadium yesterday, except they don't even have the votes yet. They haven't done the political maneuvering you need to do to get approval for the public financing that they're getting down in St. Pete, and it's a big development deal. I still think the biggest scam is actually what happened up in Buffalo, because Buffalo could not lose their football team. And Buffalo's using money from places other than in Buffalo to keep the Buffalo Bills, because there's no way Buffalo would ever lose the Buffalo Bills because that's all they have. And when that sort of leverage exists, when you're an NFL team and you're the only game in town, can you imagine if Green Bay would not build or renovate Lambeau Field? Of course they can't lose the Packers. It would be the end of Green Bay. So that sort of leverage is from where scams really come.
Before we get to your movie, can you guys please just put on the screen for all of us here so that we can all look at it? This is David Sampson's natural, authentic reaction to learning the information that the peaceful artist Bob Ross, who made a career of drawing plants on television in a way that was super soothing, that all of his loved ones had ravaged his fortune and taken all of his money.
But Bob Ross is such a kind soul, and he's done so much to soothe people. Who could do such a thing?
I would have. Easily.
Yeah.
Back in the day, are you kidding? A chance to take Bob Ross? Take advantage of Bob Ross?
Are you salivating right now? Are you fantasizing about taking advantage of Bob Ross?
That just happened in front of cameras.
You're pure evil.
This
is wild.
What you just saw the
done
piranha.
so much to help your
the
reputation.
Piranha wearing a jacket.
And I love him.
He
so foul.
just salivated at the idea of being able to manipulate Bob Ross's fortune away from him. We got to do a scammers pod with Stugotz, Tony, and Sampson.
Done.
Just how to pull great
I'm in.
scams.
Are you wearing the same outfit? That was
Except
confusing.
I'm not interested. I couldn't tell, by the way, Mike. I couldn't tell when we were back to now or when we were then.
There's a slight difference in hat.
Can we please?
It's like that Us Weekly. What's different about these photos?
Can we review your movie? What did you watch? What are you reviewing?
I love getting suggestions. I do love watching a movie and do every day, and I get suggestions from fans. This one actually came from you, Mike. Oh, it is the same. Oh, and the hat is pretty similar,
No,
too.
it's a collared shirt.
Well,
What's
that's where Us Weekly gets us. It's
Exactly.
It's a different.
You don't notice the collar, right.
Look, like the
Yes.
club placard
This
is
not- it's
different.
not the
There's a
same
difference
thing.
I
in
don't
your
think
you
it's a
stop
collared
dyeing your
shirt.
mustache, too.
I think it's more of a bacon neck.
Oh.
What? What do you mean? I'm going gray because my
Allegedly.
brother died.
Oh, no, you're not. You're going gray because you stopped dyeing your hair.
Whoa.
Blaming it on your brother? I mean,
The last year of my life has ravaged my face.
I want to hear from Mike on this.
It's a play on for me from David.
Mike, you told me to watch a movie, and I did. I watched this movie in the middle of the night, 2 days after you told me to watch it. It's on Peacock, called Angle. And I have to acknowledge one thing before we start. And what I'm acknowledging is that I had never heard of Kurt Angle. I had never heard of him. And I'm sorry to say that. This is a movie.
Where does he rank, Mike? Decorated professional wrestlers of our time. He's the top, correct, of like real wrestling and performance
in
wrestling.
terms of like reputation. When he was at his absolute peak, he was a guy that could succeed in any era, had everything going for him, and was one of the master tacticians in the ring of professional wrestling, but also arguably the greatest amateur wrestler too.
So he's a gold medal wrestler, and I just hadn't heard of him. I mean, I've heard of Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant and Randy Macho Man Savage, but not Kurt Angle. This is a story, really, it's a story about addiction. And the fact that he almost lost his life, he was taking up to 65 opioid pills a day. And as you know, that is generally the end of someone, but he found a way to recover from that. It's about the up and down story of having it all and then having nothing, and what you do. And I didn't realize the loss he had in his family. He had suffered a loss, several losses. And when you are an Olympic champion and you try to trade on that because you think it's just the beginning and it turns out to be the best, and then you try to figure out what do you do with the rest of your life. The reason this movie was very attractive to me is A, I learned the story, but B, it's something we don't talk a lot about. We don't follow athletes after they leave our team. And you've got athletes who have a moment, and they're 22 years old, they're celebrities, they're stars in a Super Bowl, and you don't realize how hard it is when you are an aging athlete, when you're trading in your glory days, and all we do is make fun of the fact that they go to card shows, or we make fun of the fact that they're trying to be on Dancing with the Stars. I don't think we realize how difficult it is to know that the best has happened and you're 35 or 40 years old and your body's breaking down, your ability to make money at that level has gone away. And we don't think about it or talk about it because as executives, it doesn't matter to us. And as fans, we're on to the next thing. And this is a movie about what happens to people when you're on to the next thing, but they're still looking in the mirror.
There's a good movie with Mark Ruffalo and Steve Carell where Steve Carell displays his range called Foxcatcher. And
Amazing.
What you learn from this documentary is that Kurt Angle was very much a central figure in all of that. I believe the producers behind that Foxcatcher film are behind this documentary. But for me, it's a story of addiction from the very beginning. Even before he actually goes to prescription drugs, he was addicted to competition. So much so that he was going up against these guys in amateur wrestling that were twice his size. Like Sylvester Terkay was a unit, and he was going up against them with a broken neck. And all these people know it wasn't a secret that Kurt Angle had a broken neck. Oftentimes they would attack that neck. Where he found his advantage was just with exhaustion training. I'm just going to tire this person out. And the way that he was addictive and obsessive about his training to get to that final level, which was a culmination of his being that led to a whole identity crisis, was amazing to witness. I was familiar with the legend about him winning the gold medal with a broken freaking neck. I had no idea what actually went into it.
You can imagine, and David, thank you for the suggestion. You can imagine, Stugotz, as we talk about pain and what Nick Chubb just went through, you can imagine what kind of pain threshold you would have to have in order to beat other wrestlers, whether broken neck or not, just to make your body granite so that you can outpain someone at, your ears cauliflower, and that's the least of it.
I was actually thinking about Kurt Angle when Aaron Rodgers was talking about this new innovative surgery to really reduce the amount of time in healing, because Kurt Angle tried doing that because he was addicted to competing in the wrestling ring, where he took these procedures that were experimental that would shorten the recovery time to a broken neck by half. He ended up breaking his neck 4 times in a 2-year span.
It's called steroids, is what baseball players and others use to try to increase healing, the speed of healing, and to get your body back. And that is what some players have actually come clean and said, oh, yes, I did do steroids, but I was just trying to get healthy again. But we don't care, do we, what people do to their bodies, as long as they're entertaining us, as long as they're taking the risk and not us, and we just get the enjoyment. It's not something we've ever thought about. And maybe we should, but we probably won't.
Unless they're watching Beetlejuice in the theater.
That was unreal. Was that a first date?
Yes.
It was.
It can't be.
It was.
It was. Apparently, it was also a last date.
Yes.
There are no
Well,
longer-
now it has to be, but that's some kind of guts by that guy on a first date.
Yeah. Well, it was balls. I saw in the video.
Do we have that video? Let's get that video. Thank you, David Sampson. We will talk to you later. Let's find that video. Let's make it grainy in all the right places so that we're not pornographic. And let's get to a couple of things here, Stugotz, locally that I want to get to.
My bone to pick?
Yes.
No pun intended.
Let's start there. Thank you, Billy. What is your bone to pick? Because the Marlins are still magical somehow in the middle of September.
Yeah, but I'm missing it because here's the thing. I did sign up for this app, right? And I found a special deal that was going to get me $5 off. So instead of $19.99 a month, it was $14.99 a month. And I was doing my budgeting, and I said, you know what? 3 months, I can do that, right? And then I'll just cancel as soon as the season's over. Because even if they make the postseason, none of those playoff games are on the channel anyway, so I can just cancel, right? So then yesterday I go to tune in to see what's happening.
Do you keep up with that, by the way? I have trouble sometimes remembering stuff that I need to cancel, or I'm going to go free trial, and then I'm not going to notice it for a couple of credit cards.
That's the trick, Dan.
Well,
That's a whole business model.
I know.
That's
I mean,
the
that's
whole
what I'm
thing.
saying.
Trial, yes.
Like, but how are you guys? Are you guys meticulous about how you handle that
I
stuff?
am.
I try to put calendar reminders in
That's
there.
the thing you're meticulous about?
I'm teasing.
That's the one thing in your life you're meticulous about, going and canceling that Showtime that you got for a week for free.
Well, so I have one that I can't for the life of me figure out how to cancel, and I think that it's because of our boss, John Skipper, and it's ESPN Plus. I cannot for the life of me figure out
It
how
always
to
comes
cancel
back,
it.
yeah.
Well, here's the thing. I can't even figure out.
So they're haunting us? ESPN is taking us money
Dan,
from
you
the
don't
beyond
understand.
that you can
There are so many layers you have to get through to cancel ESPN Plus. It's insane. They make you cancel on the same device you used to register for it on. And I have no idea what
Wait a minute.
device
They're
that
trying
was.
to Kirk Angle you?
It could
They're
have been
trying to
an old.
fatigue you
Yes.
so that they
I signed up for that on a
You
Palm
just-
Pilot.
Exactly right.
You just give up, and you have like 9 subscriptions.
100%
Yes.
right.
Such a great
And
business
it's
model.
the craziest
That
thing.
is
It's
awesome.
like
That's so
like
good.
3 phones ago or something, and I don't have that phone anymore, so I
Right.
can't cancel it. And then here's the worst part.
Stuck with it.
I can't find the credit card that I'm being charged for on that. So I can't even cancel the card to get out of it that way. I just know I continue to have access for it. I can't find the charge for it. I can't cancel it. I can't find the device that I signed up for it on. And now because I have Hulu Plus Live TV, I get it for free as part of that. So I don't need it anymore the other way that I got it. And I can't figure out how to undo it. I can't find the way to cancel it.
Billy, I have had this exact same problem with ESPN Plus for like 2 years now. I keep getting charges for it. I tried logging into my credit card because you can like unsubscribe from things through your credit card. You can be like, cancel this purchase or whatever. I can't even do it for ESPN Plus. It will not let me. It just doesn't make any sense. They've been charging me like, I don't know, $4.99 now for like 2 years.
The price goes up. You
Every
can't.
single month, I'm like doing the math in my head. I'm like, this is how much money I've spent on ESPN Plus, and I've been using Chris Whittingham, so I don't need this. And it's so annoying.
You and
I
me
can't
both.
Cancel it. They want me to call this 800 number, and then I can't call the 800 number, and then it doesn't work, and then I don't even know what to tell them because apparently I don't have a username or an email address logged in with them, but they're still charging me. How does that make sense?
This, I will tell you how it makes sense, and I've got an ear-to-ear David Sampson greedy smile on my face because of how amazing this is. I thought
How dumb we all are.
that no,
This is done on purpose.
No, Stugotz, not how dumb we are, how sophisticated business entities that now try to end the writers of Hollywood because Bob Iger is at a billionaire's retreat. I thought that Bob Iger's greatest scam before this was what I'm about to explain to you, which is somehow that ESPN was in 120 million homes because of cable bundles when they were dominating all of this, and about 119,500,000 of you were not watching that dumbass show I was doing with my father, but paying for it. A perfect business model. Because they'd get 10 million for Monday nights, but 110 million were paying for ESPN and not regularly watching it. So that's the greatest that you could do as a business.
Genius.
But what I'm telling you is in the evolution, Netflix got ahead and Disney said, wait a minute. We're going to catch you. And you know how we're going to catch you? When we get your money, We're going to put our claws around it and make it more difficult than all the other streaming services for you to get your money back. And we're going to fatigue you into the ground with a bombardment of information to your credit cards. And once we have your money, you're not canceling.
It's literally impossible to cancel ESPN Plus.
It's great.
You cannot find. No, it's not. It's not great.
It's amazing as a business. I'm delighted at how sinister it is. I'm delighted that the greed would be that brazen. That, damn it, Iger, you haven't taken enough of our money? Now when you get it and we want it back, the answer is no.
I don't even want it back. I just want to stop giving it to you. And I can't do that. I'm not asking for anything back. I just can't figure it out. I've tried so many ways.
Are they in cahoots with my credit card company too? Because how come I can cancel any purchase or payment from my credit card except ESPN
Wait till
Plus?
Apple gets a hold of all of this, including Disney. They're going to have your money and you're never going to get it back. Then they're going to have all the money.
I've put up with like 2 years of getting Miami Hurricanes notifications using Chris Whittingham's ESPN Plus account because I used to have ESPN Plus, and now apparently I can't log into it because my email doesn't exist in their system. So then I also can't cancel it. So not only am I paying for it, I can't even use it, and I'm using someone else's account and getting all their dumb Inter Miami notifications.
And now their offense is better, so you're actually getting scoring notifications for the Miami Hurricanes.
For the first time.
Well, Dan, this brings me back to Bally Sports and their app, because here's the opposite problem. Is I said, you know what, I'm going to sign up for this deal and I can pay month to month and I will just cancel this when the 3 months are up and the season's done, right? Except last night I go to sign in and I find out that my subscription just canceled itself. And it's like, what? Hold on. This is the one that I want on auto renew. And now I've lost that promotion and I have to pay full price. And I have to decide, do I want to pay $20 to watch 12 more games this season?
It's about to be hell to be a sports fan, right? This is sort of the cost, I think, of the fact that we all realize that it's more fun to watch some of this stuff at home than it is to go into the danger of the drunks and some of the things that happen at stadiums where people get headbutt. You guys are now paying for the comfort and privilege of trying to watch all this stuff at home. You're creating your menu with Bally's to how you're going to consume sports in the future.
Yeah, but sometimes the food doesn't come. Sometimes the food comes and you didn't ask for that certain type of food. You know what I'm saying? Like it's tricky. It's difficult.
The revolution is here, and in the business of all of this, because Skipper, with all that ESPN money, Skipper ripped off the ACC that Miami now tries to win by buying offensive linemen better than someone else buys offensive linemen. Mike Bryant is super excited about this University of Miami football team, but something that's happening.
You're leading the jury again. I don't like that. Mike Ryan is perfectly rational. Perfectly rational?
Rational, yeah.
About,
he was just mentioning scoring alerts. That's all.
Yeah,
scoring alerts.
Perfectly rational.
Mm-hmm.
What I was going to say, though, is that Alonzo Highsmith, and I don't know if there's new information on this, but by consensus, Alonzo Highsmith is viewed by the people in the football program to have been the most athletic Miami Hurricane there ever was. He is now still in that program. He was not quite as brash as some of these other guys like Warren Sapp and Michael Irvin, or The Rock later in life. But Alonzo Highsmith, who is a Cane, and through from the time of it's a Cane thing you wouldn't understand, it was also, the undercurrent of that, it's a black thing you wouldn't understand. Alonzo Highsmith, who comes from that time, is looking at something that's just happened that is interesting, Stugotz, that bothers him evidently, because he's running the program now. Alonzo Highsmith and that Columbus contingent is running the program. He's a former Packers scout, and he's a proud Cane. And he's noticed, hey, Michael Irvin, what are you doing with the Seminole over there, Dion? And Warren Sapp is telling Rich Eisen, I'm going to work for Colorado. And The Rock is on campus at Colorado. And it was like, well, you 50-year-old guys who are from the Miami time of it's a Cane thing you wouldn't understand. Do you guys just go where the noises are, or are you Miami? And that's what Alonzo Highsmith is saying. Like, you guys, Michael Irvin loves to tell the story of calling his old dorm room number. When he was in the pros winning championship and yelling at somebody that they had to be better as a Miami Hurricane representing the Miami Hurricanes. They've all now gone to where Dion is, where the new loud noise is. And so were you guys Canes, or were you guys just a fan of the spectacle and will go where the noise is?
Alonzo is speaking for a very vocal piece of the Miami Hurricanes contingent that was really bothered by what The Rock did over the weekend. Now, I'm certainly not someone to come at anyone for supporting a school they didn't actually go to. I thought it was cool what The Rock was doing. He was very clearly trying to relaunch a brand. He appeared on WWE. It was a great way to get everybody excited.
Mike, that's what The Rock does at this stage of his career.
Right, but I do think it's fair look, The Rock has given to the program in years previous, and he's given substantively, but he hasn't been around lately, and this is a time where we could really use his support. So I think a lot of the people that are trying to build this program, and Alonzo Highsmith being one of them with his GM role, he's actually a big piece of why this year's been successful, because you have an NFL proven talent evaluator looking at the portal, and you have guys coming over from Georgia State that weren't highly touted, and they're making immediate impacts on this Miami Hurricane team. So Alonzo Highsmith is part of the change. And what he's saying is, hey, if you're going to go over there, come here too. We could use you. We could use your dollars, but we could also use your energy on the sidelines.
Well, get a coach that creates that much excitement, has both college pregame shows out there. I mean, Deion Sanders is one of Michael Irvin's best friends. Why would anyone care that Michael Irvin is out there, A, working, B, supporting his best friend?
I understood, Stugotz, but this is about regional identity, and this is about school pride, and this is about something. Yes, I understand what you're saying.
Dan, they became the most popular thing in the sport in 2 games because of a head coach and a quarterback.
But
if the
Stugotz,
Canes want that, they want Michael Irvin and The Rock there, go get that.
Stugotz, look,
Make Michael Irvin your coach.
I'm not arguing on behalf of me here on this, Stugotz, when I tell you, you must know this. I don't care who works for whom, just make it a lot of fun, great fun, make us a lot of content. But there are people who care about, hey, are you a Hurricane or are you a Seminole? Because, I'm not that person. I don't care. That doesn't matter to me. But there are people who care about those things, and Deion is not a Hurricane.
It didn't bother me as much as it bothered.
He's a Buffalo.
It didn't bother me as much as it bothered a lot of other people, but you could tell from The Rock's behavior after that the criticism got to him. He kind of went on a Miami Hurricane apology tour by posting positive things about the Miami football program. Coach Cristobal, he did a redemption interview with Dan Cilio.
Really?
Yeah.
Cilio is still out there?
They're former teammates. Yeah, I actually think The Rock gave an interesting answer where he paused about Mario Cristobal, and they asked him, were you essentially rivals at Miami? I guess they went up against each other a little bit, and he kind of paused when he answered that, but I know that The Rock has done stuff with Oregon in the past, so I don't think it's a Cristobal
Cilio was
issue.
better than The Rock as a football player.
Guys, there's a strike. The Rock's bored. Let him do game day.
Well, okay, but here's the thing, and it's gonna sound cynical, but he was just going for attention. That's why everyone is going to Colorado right now. It's because and it sounds crazy to say The Rock is clout chasing, but they're just kind of
he can, so he does.
That's the
Got
thing. You're
invite,
just
so he
going because
went.
that's the popular thing. You want to be part of it. You want to be on TV. If game day was in Miami, guess who would have been here?
Right.
The Rock would have been here.
You're
He just
so right.
wanted to be on game day. He wanted to be in WWE. He wanted to do those things. Let's be real. He was probably paid a nice fat check to be on SmackDown the first time that it's the show after Endeavor took over from Vince McMahon or whatever, right? So when in Rome, oh wait, I could just go and be on game day also the next day. We're gonna do that. I can be on McAfee the day before. Let's do that. I'll be on everything I possibly can within 5 miles of each other and get all the attention I can in these 3 days.
You guys are being maximum reasonable about how a great wrestler and marketer would go about selling his brand post 50. You are being totally reasonable. And you forget the city you live in and the fan base that you're dealing with. And Laz from Cutler Ridge cares what about your nonsense when you say that The Rock needs to have no
I think
allegiance.
he's got bigger concerns.
Yeah, I think he's in prison.
Probably
if
say
there's one
Tito.
Laz from Cutler Ridge, you think I'm mentioning one Laz from Cutler Ridge.
Just be careful.
All the Lazes?
It's all of them. All of them.
A lot of people were bothered by it. I think the thing that bothered them most is him wearing a Colorado jersey. It doesn't
Get a life.
Yeah, I would say
Seriously.
I would kind of lean a little bit more to what Billy is saying, but I would also say hey, just do some of that here too. We could use your help because this is everybody that was on College game day and on their sidelines and is super excited about Coach Prime. What we're trying to build down here is to be that level of excitement a couple years from now, and they're all going to be back down here. And we could have really used them after Middle Tennessee State. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
There was a former Notre Dame wide receiver who went on a podcast and said if Notre Dame played Colorado, he might root for Colorado just because of the Deion phenomenon.
Well, I mean, LeBron's rooting for Deion, and a lot of this is
everyone wants to jump on the bandwagon.
Well, it's not just
including
that.
60 Minutes.
But you have a lot of sports personalities.
Most streamed 60 Minutes clip on YouTube right now.
Shame on them. They're not in it for clicks. I mean,
Sadat only got 30,000 views.
Well, I see that we now have a board on talking about Deion. Dion.
it's not moving today.
But a huge part of the Dion cultural phenomenon, and you see the numbers that he got for Colorado State, it's absurd. But a lot of it is touting black excellence and rallying around this proud black man who has a very front-facing family, who is doing things differently. And you see all these athletes that also kind of want to, I don't want to use the term skip the line because Dion paid his dues in the way that he did, but they all kind of want that fast track too, and they desperately want this to work, which is why they're aggressively rooting for Dion outside of just being a fan of Dion the athlete.
But that's why, like, the Rock support is bigger than Miami. You know what I mean? Like, for the Rock and other people, this is bigger than just Miami.
Nothing is bigger than Miami. You don't understand, too. The thousands of Lazes from Cutler Ridge. Tony, we objectify Tony and get some football knowledge next.